More people are graduating more than ever before, but somehow it feels harder than ever to actually get a job. We've been told for years, go to college, get your degree, maybe even go to graduate school, and you'll set yourself up for success. But what are you seeing now that is something different? Graduates are entering the workforce with more education than ever, yet unemployment, underemployment, and even the time it takes to land your first job are all increasing. So, what's going on really? Is it the economy, AI, too many people competing for the same roles? Or is there something deeper happening in how organizations are hiring and identifying talent? Today, we're breaking down the disconnect between education and employment, why more education isn't translating into better job outcomes, what's driving it, and what people entering the workforce need to do differently to stand out. Let's get into it. Now, what do you think about that, huh?
Why? Sorry, dude. I didn't. Did we say the first question?
No, so
That's what I was saying.
That's
I was just trying to buy a little bit of time,
Okay.
you know, because I didn't have the question pulled up.
I
So
had a feeling
that's my bad. But here's the question:
Are we
if
gonna
more
cut?
people,
No, we're not. No,
nah, we
Is it
don't have to.
Okay.
raw
It's fine.
material?
Okay.
He likes the rawness.
Okay.
If more people are graduating more than ever before, why does it feel harder than ever to get a job after college?
I'm taking the lead here.
I think that's why it's harder. The more people, and all of them are just entry level and different.
What are you saying, there,
experiences.
Yusuf? Is the answer in the question? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
it's basically in the question
Okay,
because
why?
more people with the number of jobs that are right now being automated. Like there's a lot of entry level jobs that are like customer service jobs or like chat jobs who are being taken over by AI, and more people equals less
But
opportunities,
I've never
more
seen.
competition.
If I'm being honest, I've never seen or heard of a degree for someone to just go in straight into customer service. I mean, if they go into the
Well, I mean,
hospitality
that's
space,
the-
I get it. But like,
Yeah, in the hospitality space, like as an example,
okay, what?
you're
What job?
having like the starting jobs, like very entry level, like guest, like what's it called, like desk jobs.
The guest relations?
Yeah, guest relations are being more automated now. Even like recruiting jobs right now. I don't know if you've had any like recruiters call you and you just hear automated voice.
Yeah. Hey, you want to schedule a call? Let me know if you're free, or like, sorry, we couldn't reach you. And then they'll send you a text. And then when you call, they don't answer, and they say it again because AI is flawed in that department. If I'm being honest, they need a little bit more work.
Yeah, I've even had recruiters that are just full on AIs asking the questions, like the screening questions, and you have to
Okay.
deal with that. Sometimes issues can happen from that, but yeah, basically
I do
less
think
jobs.
it does
more people.
save some time for the employers. It does save some time, but you could really miss out on
What if that's the job that you want eventually, and it just
being a recruiter.
Yeah.
Or being a
no recruiting,
Being a
like recruiting,
keep going.
but working on AI.
No.
no. I was gonna say being a hospitality guest relations person.
That's very specific.
But that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about. I thought.
I know I'm talking about like being a recruiter, but then you're hearing these AIs like interviewing you basically, and so you can basically get a feel that your
What-
job is kind of
What a recruiter. I mean, we've never worked as recruiters, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah.
we don't know entirely the whole scope of a recruiter, coordinator. You know, I think AI could be like a little minuscule task. You know, that's like, finding people, that might fit the bill, or like little applicants, you sniff through it and then you look through the applications and then you send it to the hiring manager. Because believe it or not, AI can search the keywords of any resume, or it can look at your screening questions, and then you just sends it over to the recruiter, and the recruiter looks at it, see if they want to move you forward. But there's still like the process of the regular hiring process. I think it just adds another step, which is the AI portion.
Yeah, it kind of automates that part. Is what you're saying? It's just fully automated.
I think it
but it's
it
just
adds a
making the
step.
recruiter's job more efficient, so that they
I
can focus
wouldn't
on
say, because I mean, I guess in a sense it's making it more efficient, but I mean there could be someone from like a different language that like English is maybe not their first language, and they make their resume and they don't really have certain keywords that somebody would use for the job applying, because AI is limited.
Yeah.
It has a keyword bank that it's looking for to sniff through the, because it doesn't read and comprehend everything you do. It's only told to do what it's told to do. It's not gonna look at it and predict if you're a good hire in the next year. It's not at that level yet. At least I don't think so.
So like, I think you guys hit the nail on the head on 2 points. I think you were right that the answer was partly in the question, but I feel like there's a bunch of other causes that are the reason as to why there's so many
Who
graduates.
asked you?
Why there's so many graduates now, but the market's like harder than ever. I think AI being used in the application process plays a part into it, because I just feel like employers now can be even more picky, like with AI, and I don't think AI is like as reliable as some employers think it is. So it makes the process harder for new graduates to find work, since they're more than likely going to be less experienced. I think there's definitely the more graduates part plays into it. I also feel like the degree just isn't as valued as it once was, because there's so many graduates now. There's so many people getting masters, so like almost like inflation, pretty much like degree inflation. A master's isn't worth as much as it was back in the day. Now it has to be coupled with 2 to 3 years plus of experience, which for some people can do it for sure. Like if you're on the ball and you started beforehand, like you could have those 2 to 3 years while you were getting your master's. But I mean, we didn't. We weren't like that locked in. So that affects us.
We were kind of locked into the material we were studying,
Exactly.
which is why some people, yeah, maybe they can multitask and
Mhm.
they're good at prepping all their stuff, or they're built to just do that in their future, and but if I'm doing something, I kind of focused on
that thing.
what I have to do,
Which
and it's like, yeah, you want somebody to be like put their hand in every pot,
Mhm.
but do you want somebody that can put their hand in every pot? Do you want a specialized person? And that's what it really comes down to, because it's like, if I really think about it, yeah, I could have been working on my LinkedIn when I was in school. I would recommend it to anybody that asked me like, hey, like what should I do? I'm in school, thinking about graduating, whatever. If like that, I would recommend to somebody that was in graduate school or like undergrad school, any type of schooling. Like, yeah, work on your LinkedIn, get out there, get your certifications you need, get any additional knowledge you might want, get out there, do an internship, just get out there, But for me, I would probably do the same. But in reality, if I feel like I really want to like lock in and like focus in on like what I'm learning, like the subject matter, just understand it, I might not tend to do anything unless it's like I have free time,
Yeah.
And it's like you barely have free time sometimes when you're like in graduate school.
Mhm.
And if you're an undergrad, it really depends on how many classes you're taking, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But
And I don't think graduate students, that's like, they shouldn't be at fault for that, for not having the experience out the gates. But I feel like another reason as to why the job market's so rough right now, like on the other side of the AI like coin, it's being used. Like you were talking about how maybe AI is like filtering out a lot of like good applicants and stuff like that, but also the fact that it's being used in like those entry level positions phases out certain jobs that were available for entry level, graduates, like what they could have been doing. AI has taken those jobs, so then the job pool just gets even smaller. And also, I feel like not that it's a problem, but like with all these apps now like LinkedIn and all these networking events, and it's just so much easier to have like an increased job pool for people. So like the competition is just even bigger than like what it used to be before, because now
Yeah.
people from all over the place can just apply, like easy apply on LinkedIn. You can apply to 1 million jobs in one.
Well, not only that, you could have a company that has their job posted on LinkedIn, but it has it on ZipRecruiter, it has it on
Exactly.
a
So
Handshake, it has it on.
Yeah.
So you have like you already have like a 900 applicants on LinkedIn, but you also have it on Handshake, and you have it on ZipRecruiter, you have it on what's another one, Glassdoor.
Yeah, you're competing against so many more people nowadays as
Indeed.
opposed to what it used to be before.
Yeah.
So like you really have to stand out. Like you really have to be like on top of your stuff, because you're competing against a bunch of other people that are also on top of their stuff.
Yeah, they could be from around the world.
Exactly. And then another thing that I think that's like probably like one of the bigger problems, like the top two, I'd say, is the underemployment part. All the people who are getting laid off, and rather than, well, I get it. Nobody wants to go through the unemployment, cycle and like trying to find work. It's really rough. So they'll settle for a job that's beneath what maybe they're capable of doing, because people need money. And then that just takes away jobs from those people who could have been doing that job at that level that's for them. So like, maybe someone who would have been like in a, not a junior level role, like a mid-level role, now has to settle for like a junior level position, because maybe someone in a senior level position had to come down, and it's just like a trickle down effect. So all those entry level positions that graduates would have been getting, they can't, it's not as easily accessible for them, because they're competing with like a bigger pool, just because of all these apps and stuff like that. They're competing with a bigger pool with like bigger fish in it, because all of these people who are coming down, settling for their jobs, AI is already taking something out of it. So it's just like you pick your poison pretty much. Like you're kind of, I don't know, you're in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to finding work in this day and age. So
Yeah.
you really gotta find a way to differentiate yourself in that job pool.
I mean, let's just look at the landscape. Maybe 15 years ago, like we're talking like 2015, a little bit before, degrees were looked at like a strong signal of readiness. You had a degree, you were shown as some sort of readiness to commit to work. You were there for 4 years, a clear path. You normally had a clear path: college, entry level job, career growth. Companies were expected to train new hires back then. You could go to college back then for like, let's say, a psych degree, and then you just go into like the business realm. You go to like the finance, and they'll teach you about like certain things of finance, like HR, I would say. I don't think, because you need to learn calculus and all that stuff for finance.
Yeah.
I know. But the system was built for absorption and development. Nowadays, they want you to be prepackaged, just made, ready to go. Ready to cook. Just put that in the microwave.
Rated R.
You said cut that out.
No, we keeping it.
No, put that in the microwave. Bleep it. Yeah, bleep it. You said.
Alright.
Yeah, he's gonna do the. But and then like you look at the current landscape, it's more like it's the baseline is the degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's a baseline. Everybody got a degree. If you don't have a degree, you're
Gotta have a lot of experience.
no, you're definitely like, yeah, you definitely gotta have a lot of experience. Or you're definitely going after something specific, I would say. But it doesn't make a difference whether or not you have a degree anymore. I don't think so. It's a baseline.
And now, kind of like what John was saying earlier about masters being like less needed or less like
Sought after.
sought after, it's becoming more like a bachelor's degree. Like how before, like people would say, oh, you need at least a bachelor's to be able to like really work somewhere. Now it's starting to become a master's, if not already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I got a master's, but I don't feel like a master. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. So like the path nowadays is more like you go to college, After you go to college, maybe you go to higher education and you stay undergraduate. Some you just need undergraduates, fine. Like if you're going into the finance business or engineering, you don't really need a master's. If you want more money, yeah, you go ahead and get a master's if you want to specialize in something. But then you do the job search for like 6 months to a year, sometimes maybe even more, and sometimes you just get any job.
Yeah.
So and then maybe go for your career later. So there's a lot of settling in what jobs people take, and companies expect you to be job ready.
And that just delays it even more
I
for
mean,
getting the position you want.
think about it.
Because the requirements might just keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Like let's talk about, let's see here. Okay, let's say for example the experience trap. This is a big one. This is one that's like very common in the market. A grad applies to an entry level HR role. It says entry level in the name, by the way. Let's not skip that point. Entry level. Put that up there, you said. It says entry level in the name, HR role. But it requires 2 to 3 years of experience with HRIS systems. So now you're stuck because they can't get experience without a job. And you can't get a job without experience. So how are you going to get a job? How are you going to get that experience? How are you going to get your foot through the door?
Yeah, that like unrealistic expectation of having like the perfectly polished product out the gate.
So why is entry level now such a not entry level position? It's just, it could be the AI, or it could just be that the market just looking for more experience. But it's just like, how are you supposed to learn the systems if they want 2 to 3 years?
I think it's just because they have the luxury of
you're gonna be 2 to 3 years in your house just practicing every day. Hey, let me just do this.
No, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's just the students have to be ahead of the curve, like we said. Like you need to be ahead of the game. You have to be on top of the ball. If not, you're gonna be behind. You're gonna have to start doing like certifications or something when you finish to kind of catch up.
But a certification doesn't play 2 to 3 years.
Exactly. Or what I was going to say, like you got to settle for a lower level position and like kind of work your way up per se. But then, like I mentioned,
how is that lower level position going to happen if it's entry level?
That's what I was saying. Like it's going to delay. It might not be exactly what it is that you're looking for. So you might be getting a little bit of experience, but it might not, be correlated exactly with what you want. So it's just like it's a lose-lose. If you're not on top of the game, or if you don't, have connections or something like that, like it's really rough out there.
Yeah.
That's why the time for employment is just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, when you mean top of the game, something I think about is like you got someone who did everything right. What's everything? What is right? Well, they graduated, let's say, in this example, let's say with a business degree. They had 2 internships. They had a decent GPA. And 5 years ago, that profile probably would have landed you like a pretty funny job, I feel.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the same candidate would be competing with like hundreds of people that looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
They all got, yeah, or even better.
Mm-hmm.
Now a decent GPA is not the same GPA would land you jobs. A 3.2 won't land you anything nowadays, I feel. Like, those jobs that they do ask you for your GPA or your transcripts, you need a 3.7 plus, if I'm being honest. Like nowadays it's a lot harder because everybody looks the same. Everybody just performs higher.
Mhm.
And it's just hard because now everybody wants excellence. Everybody just wants everybody prepackaged, pre-made, done.
That degree inflation. Everybody's perfect kind of thing. But I feel like another thing, like I think AI messed up the recruitment process because of all the hoops you kind of got to jump through. I think it messed up the back end of it, like in terms of taking away like junior level positions, or at least phasing some of them out so that you don't have to have as many junior level positions in the office or whatever. And then I think it also messed it up for the students because I feel like now employers don't value degrees as much because of all the AI usage. Like it's definitely easier for people to get around, like getting through university with AI. it's just gotten to that point where, I mean, there's still detectors and stuff, like you can know if somebody's cheating or whatever, but it's just made things so easy that you don't know if these kids are, or these students are actually, coming up with half the stuff that they're even doing. So they're not. That's another thing that sets them back because they're not actually learning as much. And I feel like that's true. Like I see some of the people now, like in college, and they're so reliant on AI. And I mean, you can cross that over to your work, but employers
Your work
aren't
still
looking-
has to be your work.
Yeah.
Exactly. Employers aren't looking for that. There's like confidential information. You can't. It's not going to be. You can't rely on it as much. Like they want somebody who's tech savvy and somebody who's good with AI, but not to the extent that I know a lot of people use it for.
Yeah, like you can't be asking chat how to write an email.
Exactly. Like you're going to go in for your interview and like you're not going to be able to land a job because you use Chat GPT for every little thing that you do, pretty much. Like
Yeah, no.
it's just it sets people back in like every way, kind of thing. I feel so. I think that's another reason why the degree isn't as, especially bachelor's, isn't as important because using Chat or like Claude or any of those things can easily get you through undergrad, no doubt. Like we didn't have it when we were in undergrad, but
Yeah,
I'm sure right now it would be it would be a cakewalk going through that with like
yeah.
ChatGPT.
Even me just thinking about it right now, how AI is, people I know,
Yeah,
it's not even hard anymore. I don't think I see.
I know exactly who you were, you were talking
No,
about.
I don't really see anybody really stressed. I see some stress with certain classes, because I feel like AI really can't do certain classes.
Yeah.
But the people that I do know that are undergrad, like they do have some stress, but then there's certain things that they're just not that stressed about. So it's just like the amount of effort put into something, the amount of time. You know how like they give you like those credit hours like per course.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, this course is gonna be 4 credits because they expect you to spend 4 hours a week studying. Like to pass or whatever. It's not like that anymore.
And that affects their work ethic, that affects their discipline, and then that affects like how they're going to perform when they come into work. So I understand why employers might be a little bit hesitant just blindly trusting a degree nowadays, because I don't think it necessarily correlates to like a high performing employee. So like I get the experience, but it also is a trap. The experience definitely is a trap.
Yeah, but
You
also
can't only bank on that.
yeah, because nowadays anybody can get experience
Yeah.
in anything.
Yeah.
And then it's
There's
just
just
like
no point. Let's just give up.
yeah,
Let's just give up.
because I think there's also a misalignment in job titles. Because you could have a job title that says like leadership development coordinator or something like
I was
that.
about to throw that word out there.
And then you go in there, you go into the company, you go to like get ready to apply to this job, whatever, and then they just tell you like, oh yeah, this is a sales position.
Mhm.
Where is there a leadership development in sales? What leadership are you developing in sales?
I don't know.
I mean, do you have a team? They're like, no, this is entry level. It doesn't match
Yeah.
the description.
Mhm.
Doesn't match the title or the description. So nowadays they're also using AI to create the description for the job titles, which don't correlate at all with the job functions. So they're also catfishing.
Yeah.
In that sense, they're also catfishing those jobs that do sound too good to be true. They tend to be too good to be true because they're using AI just to set up something to make it look real nice for people applying. It's important to watch out for all those things. You got anything to add on that? No?
All right now.
Yes? No?
I mean,
Okay.
but yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot of jobs out there that, like you were saying, like the title doesn't match with the actual job. It'll just be in the end a sales job, or like you said, catfish. It's basically gonna have going like, oh, we will give you a W-2 for the pay, and it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know if you've seen those jobs on LinkedIn,
No.
but they do exist. Trust me. Entry level recruiter. just cross it out.
Like, I feel the issue here is it's not that people aren't doing things the right way. It's that the definition of what the right thing is has changed over time. You know, nowadays it's not you go to college, you get your undergrad, you maybe do an internship, you get a job right after.
Yeah.
Nowadays that's like a dream scenario.
Yeah.
You know, I've had, I think, one friend that's gotten it right after, right before he graduated, he got the job. But then he still had to wait like 6 months, 6 to 7 months for like clearance and everything. So it took time, but one job. That's one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think now they're expecting you to have already been basically working during your studies, so that you have that experience ready.
Mhm.
Because a lot of entry level jobs will have something like they want you to have experience with Workday, Oracle, PeopleSoft, any of those things.
See, but because of the market saturation, yeah, it's changed the narrative a little bit. Like it's no longer the get a degree and you're in. It's more of get the degree and then prove why you're different from everyone else that has one.
Yeah.
What makes you special?
Pretty much. Yeah. And then that boils down to, I think, the interview process. But yeah.
So I think we should go to the next question.
I'm ready. Yeah, let's go.
Read it, big boy.
Oh. So, what's really driving this issue? Are there actually fewer opportunities, or is the system just getting worse at identifying and selecting the right talent? I feel like we had a little bit of overlap in this from the first question. Like, we went into the first question so hard that we kind of led into the second question. But yeah, I definitely feel like there are fewer opportunities in the sense that, like, there is more competition. So obviously there's going to be fewer opportunities. But I also think the system is worse at identifying talent because they're relying a lot on AI now for a lot of those like entry level positions and stuff like that. Like you guys mentioned, I remember when I was applying, like you guys said, all those like jobs that don't correlate to the title or the job description or anything like that. So I think the system isn't as good as identifying talent. I think I got really lucky with my position because my boss manually went through all of the applications, and that's why I think I got my position. If not, I probably just, who knows, I might still be unemployed. Oh no, I had that other one, but like who knows, like subtle flex. Who knows, like it could have, I don't know, it could have taken longer. um I think it's a little bit of both. Like it's the system. There's fewer opportunities because the market really just is that bad. People getting laid off in those better positions and having a lower down, like the
But
trickle down effect.
I think it's also, since there's a big disparity, I don't like to throw in the COVID bomb, but like during that time, COVID time, a lot of people got hired, and a big issue, people coming back into the workforce and everything, that people were getting hired just to get hired. You know, like they were not qualified for the positions, or they had said they were qualified, and then when they got in, they just didn't cut it.
Mhm.
You know, so that's made companies a little bit more cautious. You know, a lot of laying off isn't just they're laying off their best employees. No, clearly not. They're laying off people that maybe had said they had all the qualifications, they knew how to do something, and when it came down to it, they stopped doing it. You know, like they weren't working as they were supposed to. And sadly, it's been our generation that's kind of faltered in that demand. But I mean, I guess you can say it's also, it could be companies not training properly, or it could just be us, you know, our generation just not preparing properly. It could be the latter, you know. It doesn't really.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of different factors, and not only just that. I think
But I think it is a common trend, you know, that there's been a lot of hires, that the people that do get hired, maybe they don't last that long in companies. I think I saw something about it that a lot of new hires from our generation have been fired and they haven't stayed in a job in over like 2 years. On average, they stay 2 years and then they quit or they get fired before 2 years. So I think that's like a big difference between the previous generation where
So you
they
think
still have 5 to 10 years. Like,
you think less people are being hired from our generation because of that?
I think
It plays a part.
I think all the different factors that take place into that statistic
Mhm.
are what may be playing into like hiring more cautiously. Because nowadays you have everybody graduating from college. I mean, I think there's like so many people nowadays that graduate from college. It's like a common thing now. Back then, it used to be like, like way back then, it used to be like a privilege.
Mhm.
Now it's like, oh, you graduate, you're a scholar. You know, like, oh, nowadays it's just like you graduate, and then most people go work at McDonald's or something
Mhm.
after they graduate. You know, so it's just like it's it's not as niche as it was. It's not as the value of it is not as it was,
Mhm.
and it also comes with the work behind the person hired. You know, if they don't see like the ambition, they don't see the growth. Like, yeah, you have like the 1% of they're like super savvy at what they do, and then they end up making it big in our generation.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't see that. That's why our generation is the generation of quiet quitting.
Yeah.
We just quit.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not good because for other people that do want to do it, that don't get the opportunity because they weren't lucky enough, sadly, it just makes them look bad.
Yeah.
So that's why in companies being more cautious in hiring, they're actually missing out, I feel like, in potential candidates by introducing AI and removing the routine that used to exist. Maybe instead of AI can be there, but it could be there to supplement with something that's already been there, not just
As a
look for
tool.
keywords. You know, it could be used as a tool, as you said.
Rather than being the whole process.
Yeah, because it just takes away the value of a hire. And if you really want to know if somebody wants to do something, if somebody could do something, a work sample is the best way.
Yeah.
It's been proven.
Mhm.
It's like, and you don't even have to send it home with the person. You give them the work sample then and there in the interview. I mean, I've talked to people that in their process of joining their companies, they've gone to like 3 different interviews, and in one of the interviews, it was like an hour long, and they're like, "Hey, I got a work sample." They knew a work sample was going to be given to them before time, which is nice for the company, but then it's like, "Show me you can do this."
Mhm.
Like, so on the job knowledge, they wanted you. It wasn't something. It wasn't a work sample. It's like, oh, this is a technology system we use. This is not what the position was. It was more like, this is a situation
Mhm.
we need it solved. How can you deal with this?
Mhm.
This it not just shows like it doesn't just show how savvy are they, how adaptable. It shows what's their leadership skills. How do they handle situations?
You can tell a lot.
Their critical thinking, stress management. Because you were just brought upon a whole situation in that moment, and your whole job depends on how you answer. So it depends. I still think work samples are the best way. Take home work samples now. Hell no. Sorry. No. I think that's probably like the worst thing, especially with AI nowadays. You don't know. They'll probably just be like, oh, make it more human like. Who knows? I've seen people do that.
Mhm.
But no. Work samples in the meetings, in the interview process, and there's just I feel like a lot of less money has gone into learning and development for these companies, for new hires and everything. In certain companies, it's a growing asset, but in other companies, it's lost the value. They rather just bring up what they have and then just hire people experienced than spend money to teach people.
Yeah, they don't see the value.
But you lose talent, you lose diversity in that
And
function.
loyalty too.
Yes,
When you hire somebody and you build them up, they'll stay longer.
they tend to. But
Yeah.
because of this new generation with the quiet quitting and everything, it's kind of changed the market in a certain sense, I feel.
Yeah. I like that point. I never really saw it like that. And now that you bring it up, I feel like I went through some of that during my like whole interview process with a bunch of the places that I was interviewing with. Because you guys remember, I was coming back and I was like, wow, I killed that interview. Like I did great. And then when the work samples would come up, you guys would look at my work samples. I don't think there's anything's changed from back then to now in the way that I do my work. I think maybe I've gotten like a little bit better, like in the way that I can present like information and stuff like that. But I think everything was really good back then. I remember I was like running the presentations by Rodriguez, and he was like, "This is great. This looks beautiful."
Our professor.
Shout out Roger. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that like, yeah, I was young, and they would always bring that up. They would always bring up my age. They would always bring up how I'm like, fresh out of university, and I didn't really
Ageism.
and I didn't really have any other experience. But in all the work samples that I did, they saw that I could do the work. I mean,
Yeah.
They didn't give me any feedback ever on my work samples. It was just a no right after. They didn't say anything I could have done better. And it sucks that the work samples always come so late, because you guys remember I was getting those after like the fourth interview I did with the company. And that was like the final hurdle. I put a lot of time into it and preparation, and still like nothing back. And I think it comes down to like the fact that they just in the end didn't trust me, because the work was good. They loved me the whole way through. If I made it through 4 interviews, they definitely saw something. And then to just kind of end it out of nowhere, no feedback or anything. Like I didn't bomb the work. It's just, I don't know, like there's really nothing there like that I can say that it was like definitive. Yeah, I didn't get it because of this. I think it was mainly just because like what you said, like the trust like kind of barrier with
It's like
people of our
who do you
generation.
trust more?
Yeah, me and you, someone who just graduated, or someone who's been at our company for like the last 6 or 7 years, and you know they can do the work. It was just those last 2 company like DHL, and then the other company that believed in me and like gave me a chance. And it's a shame that like the work sample can't come sooner, because I feel like a lot of people, like I feel like if you guys got a work sample on the 2nd or 3rd interview, you would nail that and you could get a job. But it's just,
I think first interview is definitely, it should be getting to know the person, learning more about the resume, a little fact checker, how it is.
Yeah.
And then sell yourself. And then second interview, I do be it with like somebody else. But if you do 2 interviews, 3 interviews, 4 interviews, I think work sample should be in the early on stages. Doesn't waste your time, doesn't waste their time. Keep it simple. Can you do it? Can you not? I mean, people can argue, maybe it costs money to make a work sample. Would you reuse the same, or would you have like 5 different work samples that you change every now and then? So it's just like, how much effort do you want to put in? Because obviously, if you're doing a work sample in the 4th interview, that should be technically the last interview, I feel like, unless you have a 5th. But in the 4th, that's like final. So you probably have like 3 or 4 candidates left.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not really wasting much money, I think, in the work sample area. But also, because I guess you don't have to check a lot of work samples. I mean, if you do a screening, you have 900 applicants, but you screen 150 first interview, you cut them off by half.
75.
Let's say you have 75 left. You're not going to do 75 work samples.
No.
It's not proactive.
No.
So, I mean,
depends.
I see the effectiveness of having it later on, because, I mean, it's like, okay, we've gotten to know this person. We like what they're about. Now, can they solve it? Can they do this? Like, what makes this person better than the other person? That's something that sometimes, so I kind of understand having a work sample later.
Yeah, I know. I like, it definitely should be later in the process. You need to whittle it down, because it's just not practical sending out that many. But I don't know. I think that's like partly on the system. I feel like the question mentioned, like, is it the system getting worse at identifying talent? I think the system definitely has a part to play, and I do think that there's definitely fewer opportunities because of AI. Like some
But
junior
yeah,
level
of course.
positions are getting cut.
I mean, degrees
So-
are like a watermark nowadays. It doesn't. Degrees are like a watermark to a resume nowadays. It doesn't signify whether or not somebody has the ability to do something anymore. Like it doesn't. I don't think, in my experience, it means anything anymore. It just looks nice.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of like what.
But
it
it should
seems
be a
like.
signifier.
It should be a signifier. It should be an identifier.
Yeah.
You know, it should be like, okay, this person clearly has a drive.
They're competent. They can get through schooling.
Yeah, but like especially if you have a master's,
Yeah.
PhD,
That's different.
MBS. You know, if you just go a little further, that shows some sort of dedication
Drive.
to your craft. You know, like you want to know more. You want to become a master. You want to get a doctorate in what you're doing. So that takes commitment, dedication. You put an effort in that. So I think that should be valued more. You know, because you say nowadays, yeah, anybody can get a bachelor nowadays. You know, you just chat it up. You know, some classes you can, but you know,
I think most degrees you can in undergrad.
yeah, I guess you know it's not that hard. I guess nowadays, but like we didn't have it on undergrad, but I guess nowadays it's not that hard to do AI. But I think masters should be valued a little bit more. But yeah, I think what's wrong with the system, degrees clearly not signal any ability. Resumes all look similar to them because everybody's gone to college. You know, hiring relies heavily on like filters, like keywords, referrals,
Years of experience.
systems.
Mhm.
You know, any other certifications you might have. So qualified candidates, most of them, they get overlooked. You know, they might have the education, but nowadays the education doesn't counteract. It doesn't equate experience anymore. When it sometimes we've heard and when we've gone to job fairs that a master's degree counts for like 2 to 3 years of experience. But any job you apply for, they're gonna be like, no, you don't meet the criteria.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's not how it should be. So why chase a higher education if it doesn't give you the same, if it doesn't give you a benefit than somebody in undergrad, you know?
Yeah. I hate to agree with the joke that I made earlier that we should just give up, but I feel like, I don't know, the system probably isn't the best, but I also feel like the quality of the applicant also isn't as good because of AI. I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's all a mess. Now, like thinking back on the point that you made on COVID, I feel like it kind of delayed everyone.
I made a good point, huh?
It made, like, it instilled bad habits in people. I feel like, and I think now is when we're seeing it the most, and us especially because the first like market that's going to get affected is the entry level positions. So everything that was once attainable for us is now a little bit more out of reach because of those trust issues, because of the quiet quitting, because of like, I don't know, just I feel like how lazy some of the people in our generation have become because of how easy things are, because of, you know, we were doing remote schooling, and then right after remote schooling we got back, and now we have, wow, chat GPT, everything's just so easily so accessible that, I don't know, it's kind of like brain rot but for work. Like you just want the next best thing, and I don't know. And I also feel like employers are also affected by it too. Like they also want the best.
Yeah, it's not like they don't understand
They
what's
want
going on.
instant, like, you know, satisfaction. Like they want the best thing
Perfect
immediately.
package.
Exactly, like the perfect
Yeah, they want
polished
it
package. So it's
nice and
just on both ends. It's pretty rough.
I mean, clearly selection becomes more about like signals than actual ability. Because think about it.
Yeah,
It's just keywords. It's just
Yeah.
systems. Things that look nice. You know, like little shiny stuff. Like if you have like little glitter on your resume, they're like, ooh, look at that shiny stuff.
yeah.
You know, they're just looking for the diamonds. These little diamond things, these little special things that you might have, but that doesn't mean that you're
they're-
a diamond.
Exactly. You could play the game.
Yeah, and you can't
And
just
then they might
only look for diamonds.
Yeah, because then they
Because
might-
history proves not everybody comes as a diamond. Sometimes they come in as a diamond in the rough. You got to go through it.
Mhm.
Look at Tom Brady. Drafted what? 100 and what?
46, I think.
No, I think it was 100 and let's say 146. For
Sounds nice.
yeah, 146. Greatest football player of all time, arguably with Jerry Rice. But best to ever do it as a quarterback.
Mhm.
Wasn't even believed. He was 7th string in college. That's not an identifier, no?
No.
No, it's clearly not. The guy had the heart and the ability to strive.
Mhm.
So how do you measure that? By looking for keywords.
You're gonna definitely miss some.
You could definitely look at the attention to detail on a resume, see like, the formatting and everything, but nowadays you can just look up formats.
Yeah.
And you could just, it's not like people can just make it themselves nowadays.
I get why they do it. For them, I feel like it's more just like about efficiency. Like if you just look for those shiny things, odds are you'll probably hit it more often than if you're looking for like a diamond in the rough. But you're also going to miss out on things, and it's not going to be as reliable as you really think it is.
I've seen a job that's been circulating.
What
it's been reposted.
Yeah, that's
for 12 months now.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like I still see the job when I hop on LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm not looking for work, by the way. When I hop on LinkedIn, sometimes I see jobs that I was applying for and jobs that I made it to the final interview for, and they're still up. Up.
Maybe indecisiveness is a thing, or maybe it just didn't work out. It was a quick in and out, or sometimes I think one of our professors said it. Maybe not. I don't want to quote him, just in case. But that there is this thing that companies will go ahead and post a job posting just to see how many people would click on it, and then they take it down.
Wow.
It's more of it's a tax thing. But it's also just to see like how much traction would they get.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tester job, but it won't be an actual job. It could be.
Or they just hire internally and they posted the job, but they already picked someone for it.
Yeah, they knew who it was going to be. They just can't be there, so they
just
have to
make it official.
Yeah. Wow. How do you feel? You're applying and they already picked it.
I don't know, dude.
It was Jimbo.
Just a waste of time. It's the system. I feel like the system's faulty. Also, the quality of applicant isn't as great. I don't know. Like I said, let's just give up. Well, thank God I found the job. Thank God I found the job. Pretty much. But I think we should move on to the next question because we'll probably have like some bleed if we keep going in on this one.
Go for it.
Okay. If the traditional path from degree to job isn't working the same way anymore, what do people entering the market today need to do differently to stand out and get hired? What do you guys have to say? I'll let you guys go first.
I'm not giving out my tips.
Well,
go ahead, Yusuf.
They're still in school, or
what are you talking about?
Repeat the question.
If the traditional path for degree to the job isn't working the same way anymore, what do people entering the job market have to do differently to stand out or get hired?
I think what they need to do differently is to basically just try to get experience through internships if possible. If that's not possible, then I think their only hope is certifications, getting certifications, doing side projects, volunteering their work. Like, let's say it's something like computer science, right? What they do is they have a portfolio with all of their projects that they've done, and they can work on like side tasks, kind of get that done, and then have it out there for the employer to look at to show them they can do the work.
Mm-hmm.
I know that worked a lot for like earlier computer science graduates. I'm not sure if that's still a thing today because I've heard
that's what I did.
That's different.
That's exactly.
That's not computer science.
I know it's not computer science.
I've seen like a lot of computer science. I've seen a lot of computer science graduates working retail jobs now. So maybe
the market's like super saturated.
Maybe it's cooked.
Look, but I agree with what you said. That's literally what landed me in my job.
Yeah. Show proof, not just potential.
Show proof that you can do
it. Showcase that you can actually do the work.
Build a portfolio, slide deck, case studies, dashboards,
but then,
any real work.
But then there's people who kind of make up that work.
Uh-huh. A little fluff.
Yeah, they kind of make up that work and post it, and then that's kind of how you get unqualified candidates, because the employers, like
Make
you were
up
like
that
you guys were
work.
saying earlier,
Fake?
yeah, like fake work.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that. I haven't seen that. I didn't know it was a thing that people are faking.
They
didn't
can
know.
they
They're
can definitely
catfishing on
fake it,
LinkedIn.
bro.
I didn't know.
But like faking
I guess
resumes
it's-
too. Like that's for an example, like faking
The king
resumes.
of Prussia.
Faking resumes, and then that's how you kind of get unqualified candidates. Like they know what these shiny keywords employers are looking for are,
Yeah, playing the game.
and then they just put that in the resume.
Mhm.
And then if they brush up on their interviewing skills, that's how unqualified candidates kind of get through. And then people who are putting in the effort on their portfolio end up missing the mark in a way.
But I mean, going along with what you said, portfolio, very good. I think it's very nice, because you need evidence nowadays to be able to, like how you got a job. They saw the work you did, they saw how you do the work, they liked it. They're like, okay, easy to understand. I can see this guy working for me because you've made a lot of presentations already in your job.
Mhm.
So it's like clearly it was a very vital function. So having a portfolio was a great way for him to see how you could work in the company. But don't just list like skills. Demonstrate them. Instead of like listing skills, maybe you write in your description for the job, how were these skills used?
Utilized, yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
summary.
Yeah, like what you do in a job, plus you just add the skill in there. Maybe you bold it or something. Also stack the skills. Don't stay one dimensional. Let's say combine your degree with complementary skills. Like I say, if you do want to get a certification in data, when you do IO, put them together. And then what are some complementary skills of an IO? Their communication, presenting skills, critical thinking. How do you work those into showcasing yourself better? You don't want to just stay on the straight and narrow. You want to spread as many parts to connect, because it might not be specifically an IO job, but there might be like, okay, I like the skills he has, and he has knowledge in industrial organization, which is like in the field of the workspace. So it's like maybe he can do some HR, with us, HR generalist, maybe an analyst, a people analyst. So it's like you, by doing that, not staying one dimensional, it allows companies and people that are recruiters to see your resume more as like, okay, I see he can diversify himself. He can't just do one thing. He could do quite a bit of things, which is what we would need. Because now a lot of jobs aren't just you do one task. You're not in a factory, in a working line where you only put like a little head on a chicken and you keep putting. Everybody puts a little head. Now those are automated, but like everybody wants you to have more tasks, be able to do more things. Because what does a company want more than anything else? More than a competent employee? A competent employee that can show leadership skills and develop the company.
Yeah, somebody who can grow.
Somebody who could grow the company.
Yeah.
They want somebody that
they can invest in.
Also, get specific about your value. Don't just say, I'm looking for an HR role. Go move more towards, I help improve onboarding and retention using data and behavioral insights. Just leveraging what are some things that are functions of companies. Just take what you've done, put it under a magnifying glass, and kind of take it apart. How can I incorporate active skills that I have done? So, taking a lens and really looking at what you've done. That in itself would allow you to, like, once you learn, you're able to write that down, put that onto paper. It would help you build self-efficacy and be able to sell yourself better, because you'll understand.
This sounds so familiar.
Who am I?
I feel like I've had this talk. I feel like I've said this a lot.
I don't know you. But, who am I? Who are you? No,
My name
seriously,
is
who are
John
you?
Boss, and I believe
Oh, okay.
Joseph.
that if
Yusuf.
the traditional path isn't working the same way anymore, I hate to be the Debbie Downer. I've been the Debbie Downer all episode, but I feel like if you don't have the experience before you come out of college, unfortunately, you're not screwed, but the path is going to be really hard for you. Like like we mentioned, it's changed. It's not as cookie cutter as it once used to be. It's not as black and white. You get your degree and you get out to your dream job, the one that you've been working towards or whatever. If you don't have all the superlatives, like all the years of experience, certifications, the master's degree, if you haven't been able to put all that work in before you jump into the market, the hard truth is that it's just going to be really hard for you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to really get after it. You're going to have to do all those things that you mentioned and probably even more. I think probably the best skill that people can, if they don't have those 2 to 3 years of experience already, which I feel like a lot of people don't have, like job relative 2 to 3 years for their field. Maybe they'll have 6 months, 6 to 8 months, a year. A year is like, even then is like a lot for some people pursuing their masters. I think the only person we knew who was in our cohort that had something like that was Lauren, who was already working at Boeing, and she had what, like a year and a half or something like that, and that got her straight in, or maybe
Yeah,
2 years,
maybe like a year, almost two, maybe two.
and she didn't have to deal with anything. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't have that, unfortunately, you're gonna have to do like what we did, and we're gonna have to like do it the old-fashioned way, applying and having to fight for it with everybody else. But I feel like if you're already at the point where you're graduating in like 6 months or in a year, um, get on it. Try to get an internship. Try to start working in your field. But another thing that I think is very valuable is to start working on your interviewing skills. Like when we went to PsyOp and they had the mock interviews, I think that is super helpful because it sucks the fact that you gotta go over that initial hurdle to even make it to an interview where you're talking to somebody, like fighting through AI, fighting through all the hundreds of different applicants and trying to stand out. But if you do, when you do get the call, you really got to nail it. And if you can't show your value like right off the bat, unfortunately, there's just so many other people out there that probably can show their value that you're going to get phased out immediately.
Yeah.
So it's just that competitive. Not only do you have to be like super polished, but like you also have to be like a people person. And some people can be really good and polished, but they
Yeah.
might not be a people person. They
Yeah.
might not be able to show that value,
They might be the best BSer in town.
or that. So like it just goes back to like the system and the applicants. Unfortunately, like I said, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but it's like it's really rough right now.
Look,
So I think the best thing that you could do, if you're in your undergrad and you're going to pursue a master's, start working in your field so that you can have those 2 to 3 years of experience by the time you come out, so that the job market isn't as rough for you. That's the easiest way, ideal, I guess, at this point. But for most people, that's not the case. So you got to do what you said. And like what I learned when I started going through the job application process, I learned everything then. I wasn't a good interviewer. You guys remember the first
yeah.
after I did that first FIU interview, I was like, I'm not getting this job. I knew it. I was like,
Yeah, you
honest.
stuttered your name. It's crazy.
I didn't stutter my name. Hold on, that's slander. That's slander. I did not stutter my name. I didn't know how to sell my value. I didn't know how to show my value, and I learned that very quickly, that how important that is in landing the job. Because they can see everything I have on paper, but they're not going to necessarily believe it. And
They
if
want
they
to
don't,
know you.
Yeah.
You know,
they want to know you, and they want to know that you did those things, and they want to know how you did those things, or how well you did those things. So you need to show that value. Like,
how do you carry yourself?
exactly, like the perfect product pretty much is what you have to be. And I mean, you can start working on those things beforehand, like 6 months before, like when you're getting ready to getting into the market, so that you don't have to bomb those first few interviews like I did. You'll probably still bomb them because it's just like a learning curve, I feel like. But yeah, it'll probably expedite it a little bit more, maybe bomb less. But it's so important. Talking to mirror, I know somebody told me, "What do you want me to do? Talk in a mirror?" Yeah, you should talk in a mirror. You should get better at talking. You should get better at like presenting yourself. It's so important because first impressions, like everything. So you have to be down to the T, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to put this all in one piece of advice, just to kind of motivate you, not be the Debbie Downer,
No, not bad.
I would just say a mantra to kind of look forward to and just kind of live by. Don't just be qualified, be undeniable.
I thought you were gonna say YOLO.
It's kind of the same thing. But, don't just be qualified, be undeniable. Show
Yeah.
them who you are. Nowadays, everybody's got a piece of paper. Everybody's got degrees. Everybody's got certifications. Everybody's got some sort of knowledge and technologies. Everybody's got some sort of job experience. What makes you special? What makes you special is you. How can you leverage what you have? And that's the most important thing. Kind of look into yourself, look at what you've done, and make it so you are undeniable. The best character out there.
Beautiful. Inspiring.
What do you gotta say?
I agree. I think that's what, like I've been saying to everybody.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it has to come down to. Even with that though, even with that said, you're probably still not going to get a job off the bat. You're probably because like that was. I mean, I'm sorry. You guys know. You guys
Just don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up.
Perseverance.
I'm not saying to give up, but like you're gonna go through adversity. Even if you're the perfect product, even if you've done everything like you were supposed to, even if you somehow made it all the way to the end of this episode and
They
you're
just
hearing me
don't
right
like you.
now, it's still probably not gonna work off the bat. That's just how bad the market is. That's just the reality of the situation. But don't stop. Keep going. You got to be undeniable, and you got to believe that you'll find work. If you put the work in, you'll reap the benefits. So yeah, be yourself. It's what I strongly believe that's another thing that people can do, because I feel like people try to conform too much to try to be this shiny object, try to be someone that they're not, and that also starts to play against them because
everybody
people
tries
can-
to do that.
Exactly, people can read that, so you actually end up being more similar to other people. That's why when I was going in and
'Cause
I was interviewing, I was
Nobody just looks at what how a person is, what's their behavior. I mean, not their behavior. What they have done, what's their qualifications. They also look at what's the culture of the company. How can I integrate them? Are they a good fit?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can they decide that if they don't know anything about your personality, anything about your work ethic, anything about how you behave with yourself, how you carry yourself? So if they see you as a positive to have in the office every day, they're more likely to pick you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, companies always want an investment, whether it's between an employee or a client. They always want to invest into greater greater profit margins. They don't want loss.
Mhm.
Nobody wants loss. Everybody always wants to keep moving forward, upgrading.
Mhm.
Why do you think nobody goes ahead and buys the iPhone 6 nowadays? Nah,
Classic.
they don't even sell them.
Classic. That's the first one with colors.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
Figure that out.
no, it was the 4.
It was.
It was the 4, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then the
4 and
5C.
the 5.
The 5C.
5C, yeah. But everybody just gets newer phones.
Yeah.
And guess what the updates do? They mess up your phone, so you have to get the newer phone. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Every company wants growth.
Mhm.
They want to look towards the future. And how can you look towards the future if you can't see what somebody would be like in the future?
Mhm.
If the less you do to fill that picture for them, the harder it is for them to be able to choose you.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think. Okay.
Well,
With that.
at the end of the day, the challenge isn't just that jobs are harder to get, But it's the path from education to employment isn't easier, isn't as clear as it used to be. We're seeing more graduates than ever before, but also more competition. No longer job searches and a system that doesn't always recognize or develop talent the way it should. And that's the reality. This isn't just an individual problem, it's a system level shift. Okay? But at the same time, it doesn't mean you're stuck. It doesn't mean the strategy has to change because in today's market, it's not enough to be qualified. You have to be able to show your value, differentiate yourself, and make it easy for employers to see what you bring to the table. So if you're entering the workforce right now, focus less on checking boxes and more on standing out. That's all for today's episode of the Super IO Bros. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's navigated the job market right now. Or if it's you navigating the job market, apply some of this insight to your life. We'll catch you in the next time. See ya.
Goodbye.